Welcome back, everyone. We're here with another Q&A. Any questions you want to ask related to nutrition or keto or intermittent fasting, go for it. We have a lot of people lined up, and I always like to dive in and not add this long introduction. So over to you, Steve.
Good. Well, neither will I. Let's get right to it. Alex from YouTube, how long should we be taking vitamin B1? I've been taking 4 doses a month. Can I reduce my intake gradually or keep taking it?
I'm guessing you're saying 4 doses per day for a month. It's kind of one of those things where you're going to see improvement, hopefully, and I would do it for several months, really to fulfill that. And then see if you're going to get it from the diet. Do a little calculation. Are we need enough food to fulfill that? Because what depletes B1 is stress, alcohol, wine, tea, carbohydrates, starches, antibiotics. So there's a lot of things. So really, depending on your lifestyle, let's say you do a lot of coffee or tea, then you're going to probably need some B1, maybe 1 per day, but not the large amount, especially if you're trying to create a therapeutic effect. So, I think even with vitamins too, you can cycle on and off, and just to see which one's working, which one's not, how you feel. Especially with B1 though, it's the RDAs for B1 is like roughly a couple milligrams, which is a joke. So it's outdated. We need a lot more. And unless you're doing something like nutritional yeast or liver, it's not easy to get enough B1, especially if you're living in today's society.
Can you overdose? I mean, can you take too much?
No, because it's well, there is a fat soluble one, but no, you really can't overdose. There's really no side effects that I know of. I mean, I'm sure you could probably take a whole bottle and you might have an upset stomach, but I've never heard of any type of toxic effect from that. But I will say, when you take larger amounts over a long period of time, and you don't take it with other B vitamins, it could create some imbalances, because in nature you never see a single vitamin. Everything has additional they're called cofactors that help it be absorbed. Same thing with like vitamin D. You want to take that with vitamin K2, take it with zinc, magnesium, and so might be a good idea to take B1 with other B vitamins as well.
All right, very good. And we've got a zinky question today. And by the way, they're all questions, no true falsers, so you're going to have to put your thinking caps on, audience. Let's go to Cushion 1987 from YouTube. In your opinion, what is the cause and remedy for lipomas?
That's a tough one. I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. My theory is there's some type of encapsulated toxin of some sort. There might be a liver connection. I've not been successful to figure that one out yet, because I was also curious about it. So I did a deep dive and I just could not find anything that could make sense, or especially to get rid of them. So it's just one of those mysteries that maybe someday we'll figure out.
All right, very good. Let's go to Harpreet from Facebook. Which foods are best sources of vitamin B2 in this case?
B2, riboflavin, is in a lot of different foods. It's in eggs, it's in vegetables, liver, meat, fish. It's all over the place. So it's very unlikely you're going to be deficient unless you start eating a lot of junk food, refined foods, a lot of refined sugars. And of course, all of you that are watching don't even fit in that category, so we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, of course not. Let's go to Fly High from YouTube. Which is better for pain relief, your opinion, DMSO or MSM?
DMSO is something that really helps you. It gets sucked in the body. It's very it's like a solvent. It goes right in. You can even put it on the bottom of your foot and taste it. Tastes like this metallic taste. So some people use that for pain. Some people also add different remedies so this DMSO can deliver into the tissue. That's a really great thing to try as well. But then you got MSM, which is also very soluble. is also good for arthritis. I don't know which one works better, but the good news is very soon, within months, we'll be able to figure this out. So stay tuned for more information on that.
All right, very good. Let's go to Rumble, our first of the day from Mary Moore. If drinking any liquids, even water, makes you bloated, is that a sign that you have SIBO? Thank you, she says.
Not water. No, not water. But if you consume more fiber or probiotics and you blow up, that could be a sign of SIBO for sure. And SIBO is a situation when you have the microbes in the small intestine. They should be in the large, but they're in the wrong place. And so they're starting to ferment. So yesterday, I was feeding my goats because there's one little baby sheep that lost the mother, but this goat mother picked her up as a baby, and so they're following around. So I'm feeding like the raw milk each day in a bottle. And so this mother sheep came around me and had a huge stomach. And that basically, those goats are designed to ferment. So all this fiber and grass is just being fermented in this big vat by microbes. So we don't, if we actually eat way too much, we could actually get the same situation. And that goat was literally looked like it was pregnant, but it wasn't. That's a normal thing.
Poor thing. Well, life on the farm. Gregory from Facebook. What are the benefits of methylene blue? There we go with methylene blue again. Very popular.
Methylene blue was one of the original drugs, way back in the medical profession. It's actually a dye. It's a pigment. It's blue. And it's not like the the red dye stuff, which is very toxic. It's a different way they make it. And apparently has some really interesting properties to help the mitochondria in relationship to kind of acting a little bit like oxygen and to help make ATP. So I think the time to use that is if you have a metabolic disorder, type 2 diabetes, or you have some type of Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or dementia, which is a lot of people. Or a lot of inflammation, you should take it because it can actually help the mitochondria. If you don't have those problems, you probably don't need it. So, but it assists in mitochondrial function with the biochemical machinery to make ATP.
Wow, interesting stuff. Okay, let's go to Eric from Rumble. What would you recommend to reverse cataracts? Can you do that?
There's some drops. It's N-acetyl carnosine, not cysteine. So it's NAC. It's a different type of NAC. N-acetyl carnosine drops. Now, it's hard to find these because they'll sell them, for animals like your dogs. And it's like you see all these amazing success stories, but I don't know why they don't sell it for humans. But you can find it online, different stores that will sell it. And there's those little drops. You put a couple drops in the eye and it gets absorbed through the lens, and it acts as a very powerful antioxidant in different layers in the eye. Pretty safe, but that's like the best thing that I know of for cataracts.
Wow. All right, let's go to our first quiz question of the day, and there you have it, Doc.
All right, what is the only side effect of high doses of vitamin D3?
All right, audience, your first challenge for the day. Let's go back to social media with Sarander from Facebook. Which foods would help lower high cholesterol levels?
So, just so you know, when we talk about cholesterol, we need cholesterol. It's a necessary thing. We make it as a precursor. So sometimes when people have high cholesterol, they're concerned. Let's just rephrase the question. How do we lower the cholesterol that creates damage inside your arteries? Okay, we're talking about small, dense LDL. It's just the particle size, and it's usually a specialized test to determine that. And anything that creates insulin resistance will you'll increase the bad stuff. Anything that reverses insulin resistance will give you the good type of cholesterol that you need. Okay. Or actually keep it regulated. So this, if you want to improve the cholesterol, you want to lower your carbs. You want to not eat so frequently. You don't want to have seed oils. You don't want to have seed oils that are rancid, you're adding oxidative, omega-3 inflammatory fat into your body. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do sugars and refined carbohydrates. So that's what I would recommend. Of course, also, avoid trans fats too.
Very good. Ziba from Facebook, can colostrum be used by someone sensitive to dairy? That's interesting.
Very good question, because in colostrum, you're going to get this milk, which is the first milk, which has this immune factor. But if you have this sensitivity to milk protein, which some people do, you might have a problem with it. So maybe you want to try colostrum made from A2 proteins, from or even from sheep. That might be a better source, and take smaller amounts. At least there's going to be less of an allergy. But you're right, it is a problem. If you're severely allergic to it, you're going to have to find some other way to improve your immune system.
All right, very good. When I'm a baby boomer, and when I was a child, people would threaten children with a teaspoon of castor oil or a tablespoon if they didn't do their chores. But Tammy from Facebook, is castor oil that's applied topically good for the liver? I don't know how I went down that rabbit hole, but she's not drinking it.
So castor oil is really interesting. It's different from other oils. It can penetrate, it's hydrating, it's good for the skin. But people use it in different packs, like you can heat it up a little bit and put it in a pack and hold it over your liver, or some people put it over the uterus for issues. And there's some, people are reporting great results with that. I don't know if it really gets fully absorbed in the liver or not. I just know people use it. They swear it works. So it's one of those things that I think maybe you want to try it and see if it helps you. But I heard great things about it.
Okay, let's go to Living Creatively as the handle for this person from YouTube. Could you please discuss options for regulating hormones during perimenopause?
I think as you go through menopause, realize what's happening. You get this backup adrenals that are backing up the ovaries, okay? So anything that supports the adrenal would be a good idea. So that would be feeding the raw material to make hormones. That would be more cholesterol from shellfish or butter, something like that. Don't go on a low fat diet. There's certain medications that block cholesterol. Maybe you want to find a doctor that has an alternative for that. And then also maybe you want to support just with really clean eating, and just to make sure the adrenals have everything they need to make this transition. Because I do know in practice, when I was in practice, I noticed a lot of women who went through this transition menopause, and then the body fell apart because the stress was magnified to the point where it affected their bones, because you have this drop in estrogen as well. So we want to support and maximize the gland that makes the hormones, and that would be the adrenals. So maybe you also want a good whole desiccated adrenal supplement as well to support that, and just do things to build up your fitness and support your tolerance for stress. And I have a lot of videos on that.
Wonderful. drberg.com, everyone. Sure you know that. And for videos you can't find on YouTube sometimes because of some controversy, you always go to Rumble. So they don't censor over there, and you can get the full scoop on stuff. Let's see how the audience did on quiz question number 1, which asks, what is the only side effect of high doses of vitamin D? And 45% of respondents say it's constipation. 35% say kidney problems, and 20% say it's increased calcium levels in the blood. What say you, doctor?
Number 3 is correct. It's the higher levels of calcium in the blood. That is the side effect. So what does that mean? It means that potentially you could have a kidney stone. There could be other issues with that because it's called hypercalcemia. hypercalcemia. So let's say, so do we just kind of say, okay, well, we can't do that because we don't want kidney stones, but you have to realize, what are the dangers of not having enough vitamin D? Well, you're going to be more susceptible to autoimmune diseases. A good percentage of the population will, especially if they have genetic weaknesses with that. So one solution, and I'm going to create a video on this, is to lower the risk for that hypercalcemic situation in the blood. And the way to do that is just maybe if you're taking high doses of vitamin D3, cut down on your calcium supplements, dairy. That way, there's just not enough calcium to turn into high calcium levels in the blood. And then also to beef up your magnesium levels, because magnesium helps regulate it. Drink at least 2.5 liters of fluid a day, which is a great strategy to prevent kidney stones, because it keeps the urine from becoming super concentrated or saturated. So these are all things to lower the risk, but realize too that vitamin D toxicity is extremely rare. Okay, it's rare, and the people that have that condition from taking vitamin D usually are taking hundreds of thousands of vitamin D for months. Okay, months, and even sometimes up to 1 million IUs of vitamin D3. So anyway, I think it's something to be think about, but it's not going to be as of a problem as you might think. But we always have to mention it, simply because there is a situation or concern with that.
All right, Anil from Rumble. Can I take berberine with Reuteri yogurt?
Yeah, no problem with that.
Well, there you have it. That's great. Barbara from YouTube. What's the best advice you'd share for someone with chronic histamine issues?
So there's a standard process product called Antranex, which is good for histamine. But are you talking about, I'm guessing you're talking about allergies, probably sinus allergies, something like that. If you took a drop of kimchi juice and you diluted it with some water and you did some nasal irrigation, you'll put back a microbe to help a lot of sinus issues. Also, if you're trying to strengthen the immune system to counteract these allergies, a couple things I would recommend, and that would be high levels of vitamin D3 with the magnesium. Propolis is an immune modulator, which is also good for fungus. It's a byproduct of bees. And then, of course, the colostrum is another remedy. Yeah, that's what I would do if I were you.
Okay, let's Swix 890 from Rumble. You recently stated that if we should avoid beets if we have cancer. I was just diagnosed with lymphoma, and I was wondering why. Is it the iron or the sugar in beets? And of course, we wish you a speedy recovery, Swix.
You saw beets like in BEETS?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I ever said don't eat beets if you have cancer. I don't remember saying that. If I did, I was mistaken. But yeah, if you want to know the protocol, there's a protocol which is based on some interesting research. I think you can download it on my site. We're not making any claims. I'm not selling any products to cure your cancer. And then you can watch some of the recent videos on cancer on Rumble, but not on YouTube. For some reason, they don't like when I do videos on cancer for some reason.
Well, it's certainly a prevalent concern. Teeny Johnson from Rumble. What could be the reasons for the right side of my stomach further than the left side? I'm not sure that makes any sense. Let's see. Terry, would you restate that? Let me go to another one here. Imbank from YouTube. Zinc L-carnosine better than L-glutamine for gastritis. What is a mouthful?
Yeah. When you have gastritis, zinc carnosine is a good one. Also, cabbage actually has vitamin U. That's right. There's a such thing as a vitamin U that has a special property. You know what U stands for? It's for ulcers. It's been used for duodenal ulcers, gastric ulcers, way back in the day. Of course, now it's been, oh yeah, it doesn't work. But cabbage is interesting because it actually has good effects on gastritis and ulcers, and it seems to build up the mucus layer on the stomach and protect that. And also it helps to reduce H. pylori, which is behind some of these conditions. And in cabbage too, you have high levels of sulforaphane, which is that phytonutrient that activates H. pylori, which is underneath a lot of digestive issues. So anyway, I think cabbage would be your go-to. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we have an update on Teeny Johnny's question, and it now says, what are the reasons for the right side of my stomach bloating further than the left? I'm not sure how you would be able to figure that. Maybe one side of his, abdomen hurts more than the other, but
Well, on the right side, you have something called the liver. You have something called the gallbladder. And so you do have that on the right side if it's higher up. And then on the right side, you also have the ascending large colon. I mean, you have the ileocecal valve down there. So there's a lot of things that could kind of get jammed up down there. But I think, my guess, it's more of a problem with the connection between the liver and the gallbladder. It's called the bile ducts. And if you did some gentle massage in that area as well as in the opposite side, it might just loosen up any sludge that's in there. And one good remedy for that problem is something called TUDCA. It's a type of bile salt that has been very helpful, and I wish I had that when I had my right-sided bloating problem. Steve, this is a legitimate question because sometimes when someone says, well, I have itching on my lower right foot, what is that? I said, I don't know, just go ahead and scratch it. I mean, I have no idea.
good counsel, doctor. Okay, and Tiny Johnny, we hope that you resolve that. Yarn Mama from YouTube, my husband has stents. His doctor says calcium builds up on them because they're metal. Would high doses of vitamin K2 reverse that buildup, if you dare to answer that?
Maybe. I don't know. High doses of vitamin K2 actually prevent calcification buildup, but you have a different situation because there's a stent in there, and unfortunately it's a place that biofilms accumulate, and that's a type of microbe that has this kind of a gel. I mean, even if you go into any stream in a little brook, I don't know, in the park or something, and you reach down and grab one of those little stones, sometimes it'll be slippery. Those are biofilms. They're little slippery things that grow, microbes that are building this little shell. You have them in the tartar in your teeth, also in the arteries, but they tend to accumulate on devices like someone has a catheter device or even a stent. So the question is, how do you keep that free of calcium? It's a really, really good question. I don't know, but I probably would just do everything I can to keep the body healthy, take enough vitamin E to make sure that prevents clotting, make sure you're on a low-carb diet to prevent more inflammation. Nitric oxide is something that greatly helps support that inside of that artery. And a couple things that you can do to increase it would be to take more vitamin D3, to do regular exercise, and also beet juice powder, and even arugula has higher levels of nitrates that can increase that nitric oxide. So these are all just things that you might want to look at, including garlic in your diet, which will actually kind of thin the blood a little bit more. So these are practical things that you might want to make a note.
All right, very good. Let's go to quiz question number 2. There you have it, doctor.
Okay, why do you want to add fat or oil to your salad? What's
Audience?
significant about that?
All right, audience, you're up. Lori from YouTube, you mentioned earlier that antibiotic use can deplete bacteria that breaks down oxalates. Could you be more specific as to the types of bacteria and and how that process happens. And she thanks you. That's from Lori.
I think it's called oxalobacter. Um, and it's a microbe that we're supposed to have, but it's very sensitive to antibiotics and other things that mimic antibiotics, like our environment. And so now we don't have that microbe to break it down. So now you're going to be sensitive if you consume a lot more almond flour, chocolate, kiwi, spinach, Swiss chard. So now that oxalate can act like glass in your kidneys. One interesting remedy to prevent calcium oxalate stones would be taking more magnesium. That's just a really good remedy because it actually has more affinity for the oxalate than calcium does. So that can actually help you. But you can actually order, probably from Europe somewhere, this microbe called oxalobacter, and start taking it. I'm not sure if you can actually make it in the yogurt maker. I'll have to look and see if you could ferment it in half and half. And then you just want to probably look up what temperature you want to put that at. If you want to turn that into a higher level yogurt, I don't know. But you can at least take the probiotic and start to build up, which should have been there a long time ago. So now you have the microbe that can eat up your oxalates, which is a really cool thing.
All right, very good. Kelly from Facebook. Is it more difficult to absorb vitamin D3 without a gallbladder?
Yes. Yes. Now you can get it from the sun, but if you're getting your vitamin D from the food, that absorption is dependent on bile. I mean, also vitamin A and vitamin K, K1, K2, vitamin E, dependent on that bile. The bile is very, very important, not just to break down fat, but to help you extract these fat-soluble nutrients from your food. So yeah, very important.
All right, very good. Let's go to poor Ginger from Facebook, who has floaters and wants to know the best way to treat those in her eyes.
So floaters are these little pieces of protein that are floating around, and it could be from various things. But I do know that when people start to improve their health, whether they're going on low carb, keto, eating cleaner, a lot of times they go away. Also, if they can do some prolonged periodic fasting or periodic prolonged fasting, you will find that your body goes in this condition of autophagy. So that's cleaning up these old damaged proteins from the tissues, including the floaters. So that's what I would do. I would once a month do a 3-day, 72-hour fast, water fast, and watch what happens to your floaters.
Interesting. Okay, let's go to our green room, and we've got a nice lady, Valerie, coming to us from Florida, and she has a question for you, Dr. Berg. Go ahead with your question, Valerie.
Okay, Dr. Berg, thank you so much for all you do. And I just wanted to show you this. I actually transcribe your videos so I can go back and review the information again and again when I need it. You're just remarkable, and I thank you so much. My problem is I've had a red big toe for about 2.5 years. And I'll first tell you, I'm 70 years old. I'm not on any medications, only supplements. Um, I'm not diabetic. My A1C was 5.4 on my last blood test. There is some tingling, like if I massage the toe, the redness will go away. And then for about 20 to 30 seconds, and it'll look like the other toes, the same color. And then it goes back to the red. Now, when I say red, it's like slightly pink. It's not real dark red. However, when I put castor oil on it once, it turned a really dark red. And I'm wondering if maybe it's from the bunion. I have a bunion that's gotten worse through the years, and the worse it has gotten, the more it stays red. So I did take nitric oxide in the form of I did L-arginine and alpha-lipoic acid to get blood flow to the toe. The L-arginine made my esophagus break out in ulcers in my mouth, and so I switched to L-citrulline, which I know turns into L-arginine in the system, and that worked better for me. I think I got everything here.
So
There is a slight tingling.
do you have
I'm sorry.
any problem with a fallen arch? Do you have good arches, or are your arches kind of flatter?
I have high arches and they're good.
Okay, great. So listen, I have a little experience on this toe thing because I had a similar thing, and of course, the best thing to do is to, they can take various tests, like X-rays and stuff, to see, just to rule out, like, and blood tests to rule out, is it gout or is there osteoarthritis? Is there some arthritis in that toe? Because um, if you're changing your diet and that toe pain doesn't go away, then maybe it's not gout, maybe it's some arthritis in there. And definitely if you have a bunion, that can alter the mechanics of it and interfere with that joint. Now, for me, what I had was osteoarthritis from a combination of dropping a 45-pound weight on my toe years ago and then a 2,000-pound horse stepping on my toe, because I didn't realize that you don't want to walk a horse with sandals. So anyway, years later, I ended up with this huge little arthritis in my toe. I actually had to get surgery for it, because if that one toe is painful, it affects your entire gait. So I found a really good foot doctor to replace the joint, and it's doing great. So with that, I would first try, like what I did, is everything I could just to reduce inflammation, and you're already doing that. A couple things that you might want to just try for the fun of it is, if it's on the right toe, is it on the right toe?
Yes.
Yeah, just work on the left toe, exactly where it's red or sore on the right toe. Massage and stimulate on the left toe and see if that doesn't change the color, the pain, the soreness, and even where you have that bunion, see if you can't basically improve the physiology of it. Because what happens, I think, with the bunion, it alters your gait, and it could be pressure on the joint. And I think I would just rule out any structural things, because there's all sorts of things that I've tried, but it was not successful, because every time I walked, it kind of like that joint just wasn't gliding, and I could not reverse it. And of course, I would also try the high doses of vitamin D3 for a period of months before I would even do that. But these are just ideas.
That's great. Well, Valerie, thanks for a good call, and we hope you find some immediate relief. All right, let's go on to back to social media. ED209 from Rumble. What do you do with a bumpy, itchy rash that appears on the upper chest just below the neck?
You scratch it. No, I think these rashes on the skin mostly are related to your digestion, what you're eating, your food. So I would look at cleaning that up, whether it's an allergy or just eating too much of the wrong foods, like the sugars and stuff like that. Get that out of the diet and see if that rash doesn't go away. So that's the first thing. Like, I think I would love to go into, a skin doctor's office and just be in the waiting room and just ask, what are you eating? Give me a food log, and just clean it all up, because they don't actually get into the food. They just give you cortisone cream or some type of, medication for your skin rash. And also the microbiome in your gut is super, super related to that. So I would take certain probiotics and see if your skin doesn't clear up. And you'd be surprised also, just with some people that have like going through chronic stress, boy, the skin just goes, crashes and burns. Just changes in your environment and your reducing stress can improve that. But I would definitely go after your diet. And then also, increase more vitamin D, because that can also take away inflammation from your skin.
All right, very good. Let's go to answering quiz question number 2, which asks, why would you want to add fat or oil to your salad? Excuse me. And 87% say fats from oil increase nutrient absorption. 13% say they will help the body digest the fiber. Any winners?
So yeah, so what happens is you have all in salad you have phytonutrients. Those phytonutrients are fat soluble. How are you going to get them out? You need fat, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Put it on your salad. It'll enhance the absorption of those phytonutrients. You'll get a lot more. Very similar to adding, like, if you just take turmeric, there's this active compound in turmeric called curcumin, which is like amazing for inflammation. But if you're chewing on turmeric, not only are you only getting like 1% of it, because 99% is going through your urine, but that from that 1%, a lot of that's dismantled from your liver. So if you add black pepper, you just increase absorption by 2,000%. So these are just little things that you can do to enhance your nutrition from the food that you're eating. So yeah, this is why you don't want to have a low-fat salad.
All right, very good. Here's
Same thing with vegetables. Same thing with vegetables. Add butter or animal fat to your vegetables.
yum. Okay, here's quiz question number 3 for you, Doc.
Okay, why do you not want to take high doses of zinc over a long period of time?
All right, audience, climb on that, please. Debbie from Facebook, is there anything to treat seborrheic ketosis?
Seborrhea, yeah, seborrhea.
Thank you.
Dermatitis. Yeah, that's vitamin D helps that, but you really want to reduce your seed oils, your omega-6 fats, and it's in so many foods, condiments, it's in fried foods, and then you want to beef up your omega-3 fatty acids from fish oils, but then with vitamin D, that will go away. But usually that's a problem with a deficiency in omega-3 fats because you're doing too much omega-6 fats.
Okay, very good. Linda from Rumble, what's the best remedy for chronic hives?
Well, again, this could come from allergies, and I've already discussed this, where you want to start to improve your immune system with zinc and vitamin D and colostrum and propolis. These are all immune regulating things, and also increasing. Well, this relates to the question that I'm going to talk about. Everyone always, I don't know how this happens, must be a coincidence, but someone's always asking the question that relates to the answer to the next question. So I'm going to hold off on anything else with that.
All right, awful behavior, for goodness sakes. Let's instead go over to, no, I'm just kidding. Chanel for Lynn from Rumble. My ketone levels are out of range after 4 years of healthy keto. Good for you. Could they also be too low? Also, I get an ammonia odor from my body after having fruit. Is there a connection? She's supposed to have fruit?
Maybe don't eat fruit. There's a certain point where you actually can correct your insulin resistance. So does this mean you can just go right back to carbs? Some people are doing higher fruit and things like that, but they're exercising a lot. So somehow they became metabolically flexible, but then now they're burning off those calories. Okay, great. I mean, even if you take a small child and they haven't abused their body of junk foods and they have a super high metabolism, they're very active, they can get away with some of these carbs. But most of the population can't. But when you're doing fruit and then you're smelling ammonia is a byproduct too of candida or yeast. So that could be a situation. I don't know for sure. But one of the ways that candida survives is to produce this ammonia to increase the pH, more alkaline, because ammonia is very alkaline. And even when someone has like a candida overgrowth, you can kind of smell, it's like an ammonia type smell. But also the microbe on the stomach called H. pylori also makes ammonia to help it survive, because somehow it doesn't survive that well in an acidic stomach, so it raises the pH, making it more alkaline, and it survives, and it gives up ammonia. Also could be related to your protein digestion, because that can actually give you ammonia too. But again, these are all speculations. I'd have to do, an hour history and figure all this out.
Okay, well, good luck with that. Let's go to Sharon from Facebook. What causes restless leg syndrome at night?
Usually it's a deficiency of B1 because you've eaten too many carbohydrates, and you're generating too much lactic acid, and that's creating a lowered oxygen, causing cramping in your lower extremity. I had this. I was doing Ben and Jerry every night before go to bed. I would do a whole pint, and then I developed restless leg syndrome. So also, in order for B1 to work, the cofactor, the helper, is magnesium. So I would take B1 and magnesium for restless legs and get off the carbs and sugars.
All right, let's go to Kumaran from YouTube. Is it possible to lose weight and gain muscle at the same time? Not all weight is fat?
That's correct. You can. So if you go on a low carb and then you heavy weights, okay, and with recovery, I think it's interesting. All these things that we do that are health hacks should be intermittent. Okay, so because if you're lifting heavy weights too frequently, you're stressing, destroying your muscles, and they never recover. So the key, the secret is the recovery. Wait till your body recovers, do it again, and now we can build muscle, because muscle weight training is the most powerful stimulus of muscle growth, way more than eating protein. But then you also have, if you fast, like Steve, you fast on a regular basis, but if you fasted too long, you could probably die because eventually you need to eat. So same thing with cold therapy. If you do cold therapy too long, you'll freeze to death, or sauna. So this is all, the key is intermittent. So you do short bursts, let your body recover. And then what you're actually creating with all these different therapies, even with exercise, is you're creating a tolerance for that thing, more resistance, more adaptation to be able to become stronger to deal with it on a regular basis. Even when you consume phytonutrients, they're basically insecticides to some degree. You're creating this hermetic, it's called a adaptive effect, where you're becoming stronger to tolerate them because you're adding this little stress, and then the body reacts to it and adapts to it. And I'm going to do a video also on the hypoxia training, where you're wearing this mask, you're restricting your air, you're simulating a high altitude training. You're like, wait a second, that's really unhealthy, isn't it? Well, it's sending signals for your survival genes to grow bigger and more blood cells, more capillaries, increasing more oxygen, so you can cope with that better. So this is a really cool thing to understand, because how do you increase your health? You have to do it through stress. If you don't recover with any of these things I talked about, then stress equals more damage and more inflammation. And so anyway, that was a tangent.
Okay, well, no, but interesting focus on making sure you recover. Let's go to quiz question number 3, which asks, why do you not want to take high doses of zinc over a long period of time? 68% of respondents say it will deplete copper levels, 22% say it will increase toxicity levels, and 10% say it will lead to nausea, cramps, or vomiting. How do we do?
So the RDAs for zinc are roughly, don't quote me, I think they're between 8 and 11 milligrams. I'm like, okay, so that's for a healthy body, or that's to prevent deficiencies. Like, there's so many things: stress, inflammation, insulin resistance, sugar, all these things that increase the need for zinc. And zinc is involved in like at least 200 different genes. So it's super important. So then people will take more, right? They'll take 150 to 200 milligrams. And they'll swear it fixes their viral inflammatory infection. But what's interesting about it, when you take those high doses for a long period of time, I'm talking about months, not only do you create a copper deficiency, unless you're taking copper with it, but also it can inhibit certain parts of the immune system. So what's interesting about zinc is zinc actually works really good on acute inflammation from viral infections, but it can actually inhibit other parts of the immune system if you take it chronically. So this is what I recommend. I would take a regular maintenance dosage of zinc of right around 30 to 40 milligrams, maybe a little more per day as a maintenance. You're not going to create a toxic effect from that. You're not going to inhibit your immune system at all. But let's say you get a chronic problem that requires zinc. Let's say it's a chronic viral infection. Then go high amounts for 3 days, like maybe 150 to 200. Do it for 3 days, maybe a little longer. Take some copper with it or other trace minerals, and you'll be fine. So that's just kind of a little simple hack to prevent problems, but use it when needed, basically.
All right, very good. Let's go to quiz question number 4.
Why would our genes intentionally make us susceptible to certain diseases? Like, let me just give you an example. You'll hear some people, including myself, say, well, when I looked at my DNA, I have genes that make me susceptible to this disease or this inflammation or not being able to absorb vitamin D. Like, that's weird. Why would your genes that are designed to make us healthy be designed to make us susceptible to certain diseases? That's the question.
Interesting question. Okay, audience, I know you can handle that. Let's see. Hey Lou, 1234 from Rumble. How do you compensate or lower a TSH level, I guess that's thyroid, with a partially removed thyroid? Yes.
So what happens is you have the pituitary telling the thyroid to release its hormones. And so if it's not getting the connection because it's not there or it's partially there, then the pituitary starts yelling and starts increasing that thyroid stimulating hormone. So it could, so if you have partially removed thyroid and it's going too high, obviously it's just not, you don't have enough there to receive it. And so in that situation, you might be deficient in the thyroid hormones. And that's a whole thing that you do with your doctor where you do the testing and make sure that you have enough. So if you're having high levels of that, you might need to start taking thyroid hormones. The ones I would recommend that I think are better than the synthetic would be like the Armor or other natural thyroid hormones that are not just T4, they're like T3 too. Because the thyroid hormones are a collective group of several hormones, including calcitonin. So when you take Synthroid, you're just taking this synthetic T4, but what about everything else? Also realize you may benefit from selenium, which helps convert the T4 to T3, and also you might benefit from a nutritional product that supports the pituitary. So in Standard Process, they have several products, and I don't use them anymore, but I do recommend occasionally. If I had that problem, I would take Standard Process, Thyrotrophin PMG, and Pituitrophin PMG. That's what I would do.
Okay, very good. Let's go to Zoeanna, who needs some help from Rumble. Is there any connection between a slightly curved abdomen or stomach, a racing heart, and frequently feeling faint? Thank you.
Well, I think the heart rate could come from a lot of different things. I don't know if it's related to your abdomen, but and feeling faint obviously could be a situation where your blood pressure might be. I would check your blood pressure and correlate that with the pulse rate, because your pulse rate is going to go up if it's compensating for low blood pressure. So again, I would look at the root. What are you eating? Are you eating enough salt, or are you not? Or are you eating too much salt? I don't know. And what about your electrolytes? Potassium. Are you having enough potassium? Potassium brings the pulse rate down, and it also helps your blood pressure. It really depends on what's happening with your blood pressure itself. And then what about the adrenals? Is that an issue? There also is another situation where not enough B1 can increase your autonomic nervous system and raise your pulse rate from that, in which case you need B1. So again, these things, in order to figure them out, you need to know all the different connections, and this is why I have 5,700 videos, so you can learn those.
Wow. Okay, Angelique from YouTube. What's the best way to deal with TMJ?
A lot of times that's related to your teeth not fitting correctly. You need to go to a dentist and have them do that little thing where they test so all your teeth fit. So many people go to the dentist and then somehow the teeth they're not closing right, and that can throw off your jaw. Oh my gosh, it's like it can really mess up your jaw. So I'm not into having the jaw adjusted a lot, because it's usually a secondary hinge joint that's connected to another problem. It could be an injury affecting the upper neck. And believe it or not, something going on with the digestion can throw off your gallbladder. That can affect something called the phrenic nerve that comes all the way up to your neck, and it can refer pain up into the jaw too. So if your jaw problem is on the right side, try and experiment. Do some manual massage around your gallbladder and maybe take some tut cut and see if that jaw pain doesn't disappear.
All right, very good. Good luck with that. Here's quiz question, the answer for quiz question number 4. Why would our genes intentionally, and you kind of made that clear what that means, make us susceptible to some disease? 75% of our respondents say it's because genes are impacted by environmental factors endured over generations. 15% say it's to make your mitochondria more efficient, and 10% say it's to help the body cope with more modern diseases and bacteria.
So this is just something that's super interesting, at least for me, because they have isolated very specific genes within your immune system that put you at risk for type 1 diabetes, for MS, for Hashimoto's, for very specific genes for all these different autoimmune conditions, right? And I'm like, wait a second. If the purpose of the body is to survive, why would it do this crazy thing and make you susceptible to an autoimmune disease? It doesn't make sense to me. Until you understand there's some benefit originally for making that gene to be the way it is. So let's just pretend, Steve, let's put you back in the caveman time, where the Stone Age, where you are basically drinking water out of the stream. You're exposed to so many different microbes that are not in present time. Your immune system had to adapt to that. So your immune system has to be more, have more inflammation, be more heightened, more surveillance, and be more overactive, okay? But nowadays, you don't really need that. So if you do things that are eating seed oils that are more inflammatory, if you overeat too much and you're eating frequently and you're getting more inflammation, then that's going to exaggerate things, and then that's going to trigger those genes more than others, and you could put you into an autoimmune. But now if we take vitamin D, back in the Stone Age time, think about how much sun we were experiencing versus now, and how much vitamin D we had back then, that we basically had to kind of maybe even buffer some of that UV radiation by altering the genes, because a lot of people, the great majority of population, have some problem related to dampening the genetics with vitamin D absorption, probably because we had too much back then and that wasn't good. But now we need that vitamin D to regulate our immune system, to overcompensate for the genetic resistance that our immune system has. And so if we basically don't get enough vitamin D or don't get enough sun, those vulnerabilities genetically all are magnified, and it can just put us right into an autoimmune state. And this is why Dr. Coimbra developed a protocol for high doses of vitamin D3 to literally put autoimmune disease back in remission. Like he has 90% success rate. I mean, I'm like, why don't people know about this? Well, because it competes with big pharma, but there's you just have to understand there's always a reason why the body is doing something, and then you have to kind of work with it. And so it probably would be a good idea for someone to get a genetic test to say, listen, what are the diseases that I'm susceptible to, and what can I do lifestyle change to bulletproof myself? Well, I've already done a lot of those videos, but it wouldn't hurt to get your DNA test to see where your weak links are.
All right, very good. Something tells me we either discussed this or already asked this question. Is that true, Doc?
Yes, we asked that question. Now we need to. No, we already covered it. We already talked about hypercalcemia. So we want to move on to the next question.
Well, I think we're all done now. That was somehow either that or
okay. So we ran out of questions.
We ran out of questions.
There was one more question, Steve. And I put that as number one. And
let's see, fat oil.
You missed number one, Steve.
Oh, let me ask that, if then I can. Why are Chat GPT and Google not reliable sources of health information? And given that we have about 4 minutes, maybe you could address that with the audience. So why are Chat GPT and Google not reliable sources of health information?
So I had more arguments with ChatGPT the other day because I'm like, this is completely wrong. If you go to incognito and open up a browser and type ChatGPT and start asking questions about health, you are going to get everything completely backwards or wrong. And this is because ChatGPT and Google can't think. What they do is they go through reliable, credible sites for their answers, okay? And their interpretation for that is like authority sites. And my viewpoint on that is those authority sites are heavily influenced by vested interests, by other influences, super biased. So this is the problem. When you Google something, when you ChatGPT, they're extracting data from the establishment, which has been completely corrupted. So this is why, you can't really trust a correct answer. Now, probably in a couple of months, I will show you a better way to do this, which I think will solve that problem. But just realize that, take it with a grain of salt when you're going through your Wikipedia and you're trying to get data. It's good to look through it, but I wouldn't put all your eggs into that one basket, especially if you're trying to get results with something, because just take a look at, like, you have general medical consensus. This is basically this is not based on actual science. It's based on what everyone agrees to, right? And so many times, general consensus has turned out to be wrong. It was at one time thought that smoking was a good thing because it lowered stress, right? And then we found, nope, that didn't work. And general medical consensus that we need to do, whole healthy grains, right? Well, that's being dismantled. So there's so many of these things, including bloodletting, and even you have this new idea with, you have to wash your hands, and that's good to prevent infection. So anyway, I think enough said with that, and I'm not even sure. Do we have a minute left, Steve?
I think we have enough time. 30 seconds for Donna from Facebook. What's the best way to address pancreatitis?
Okay, so this is a short answer, but a lot of times pancreatitis, you'll see that, oh yeah, it comes from a tumor, it comes from cancer, it comes from this. Yeah, those are rare. But what's a common cause? Well, the little tube that comes from your liver, that comes in the gallbladder, the bile ducts, cross over at a certain point right by the small intestine, where the little tube from the pancreas goes in the small intestine. It joins with that bile duct. And if you have sludge or a stone, it's usually going to be sludge, bile sludge. And that can block that pancreatic enzymes going into the small intestine, back up into the pancreas, and create inflammation, pancreatitis. So this is why one of the good remedies for pancreatitis would be TUDCA, because it's really originating from the bile ducts. On that note, have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week.